and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me.
Hi, this is Laura.
And this is Jessica,
Welcome to Nomads.
a podcast about all things international teaching and travel.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Here we are.
So, full disclosure, we have no plan. So,
Mm-mm.
vague ideas of topics, but we'll see where it goes.
I think that's what people like anyway, just to have like a conversation and listen to how people talk about stuff. So I'm not too worried.
Right. Well, our vague idea was to start out with how we just ended up wanting to teach overseas, I guess, and our experience with that.
Yeah, and I get a lot of questions about, like, from students asking, how can I do what you're doing? And when I first heard about it, I thought it was something for people like well into their teaching career who already accomplished a lot. And then this was like the end of their career enjoying being overseas. But like, we're super young. So obviously that doesn't have to be your story.
Right, exactly, for sure. So, should we maybe both just start and like in brief, like why?
Yeah, like why we got interested in it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's probably the best starting point.
Yeah, let's do that.
You want to go first?
Sure.
Take it away.
Okay. So, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher during my last year of high school, and I knew it was going to be teaching music because the rest of my family, like extended family, has been teachers. And I thought that I was cool and different and wanted to do something different with my life. So I actually didn't consider teaching for a super long time. But then my band teacher was talking to me about how teaching music is actually pretty different from like being your traditional classroom teacher. So I shouldn't think of it as the same thing. So I got more open to doing that. And then after my first year of college, we did an international trip to Germany and Spain. And it was kind of a collaboration with different schools and different musical groups. And then we all met up in different ways once we were there. So I ended up meeting a lady who teaches music. I think she was in Sweden at the time or somewhere highly coveted in Europe. And so that's when she started kind of telling us how you could get started, what to look for, and that it's not just for people who are already well established in their career. So that kind of planted the seed. And then obviously I loved traveling after that because I had already had a taste of being in Europe and flying and all of that kind of stuff. And then as I continued my degree program, I just looked for more ways that could make me attractive to international teaching. Like if there were other opportunities to go abroad or set myself apart with like different cultural experiences, I seeked that out. So then I ended up doing the part of my student teaching in Costa Rica. It was like a 6-week thing. And we'll probably have to do an additional time to talk about that because definitely learned a lot. But that was even more like the day that the van had to pick me up to leave, I was bawling, crying on the phone with my dad. I'm like, I don't want to leave. We need to figure out a way that I can just stay here because if I leave, I'm never going to get an opportunity like this again. And then fast forward 3 years, I've already done 2 years teaching abroad. So yeah, so that's pretty much how I got interested.
We could definitely like do something about our like student teaching careers.
Because you had a thing about that too, like being abroad and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't really student teaching. Well, I guess I'll talk about it now.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I was just a side note. I was like nodding the whole time, and I'm like, maybe I should like interject instead of just nodding
because I don't know that you're nodding.
Right, and I'm like, but also maybe it's annoying if I'm just like, yeah. I don't know.
You're gassing me
Okay.
up. I love it.
Yeah, get it, girl. Yes. Okay. Anyway, so me, I guess you started way earlier than I was to start, so like I
Okay,
will also start earlier. I
great.
guess when I was younger, I guess I've always kind of wanted to be a teacher. I would like go home and like play school with like my brother and like make him do like math and stuff.
Nice.
Um, I hear your clicks. So I kind of wanted to be a teacher for a while, but then when I got older, I kind of drifted away from that and like wanted to be like a lawyer or an architect.
Hmm.
But then by the time of end of high school, I definitely wanted to do teaching. Um, but I was kind of up in the air about math, English, music. But with all the experiences I had in high school, I ended up picking music. I did like AP Music Theory. I was a teacher assistant for the freshman band, and I helped with one of the elementary schools in our district and taught a couple lessons. So that was definitely the route I wanted to take.
Hmm.
Then got to college, good old northern Minnesota, and eventually decided to transfer. But before I did, I was in an electronic music ensemble, and we got a chance to go to China and tour around and play. So that was like my first big international thing, other than Mexico off of a cruise ship. So went big, went all the way to China. The first month we just like played music, toured around, learned calligraphy, Tai Chi,
Cool.
Chinese.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
it
that.
was pretty sweet. It was cool. And then a couple of other kids from our college were also there, but doing a different program for like 6 months teaching. And so like the head of that company was like, hey, anybody want to stay and teach? So me and one of my other friends are like, yeah, hey. So ended up staying for another month and worked teaching sort of at like a summer camp thing, helping with like arts and crafts and games, and then like mostly music. Yeah, and when I got there, that was when I was sort of like, yeah, I can do this for sure. And I had sort of thought about international teaching, but not seriously, because my cousin is an international teacher, also a music teacher. But that was definitely like the big moment for me. Like when I got back, I'm like 100%. Like I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I was debating doing international for like student teaching too, but ended up not. Anyway, and then yeah, got my first job, and like 1 week into my first job, half year spring semester, we went to the job fair, and boom, Kazakhstan, 3 years, let's do it.
Yep. Just commit
Yeah,
your life right away immediately.
yeah, and to like a strange foreign country that you know nothing about,
That's how it goes.
other than Borat, you know.
The Stans.
Yes, the Stans, the Stans.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, I don't know what now. I mean, we could talk about the job fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I mean, so what are the things that you think you did before getting that job that made people hiring interested in you, especially for that company?
For you mean for my Kazakhstan job?
Yeah, because I even in my interview, the like preliminary interview that we have, I think he
Mm-hmm.
said a couple of things about like even just my personality, like even though I didn't have that much experience, he knew that I would be the right kind of person to just throw myself into a weird life like this.
Right. Yeah. I guess I mean definitely having the experience going to China I think helped for sure.
Yeah.
And just like in my music career, I always tried to be well rounded. So
Hmm.
like doing many different kinds of ensembles and experiences like that I think helped. And then even though I had just started teaching, I was telling him about like the different sorts of things I was planning to do, like doing guitar and like African drumming and doing like
Yeah.
pop music on like mallets, and he's like, "That's cool,"
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think that really helped. I mean, that obviously helps in any kind of interview to talk about the specific experiences and anecdotes that you have, because that's pretty much what they want to hear about. But even just
Hmm.
being able to pull from that stuff from student teaching, like talking about how I went to Costa Rica and just trying to do anything musical with the kids who weren't super interested, foreshadowing into the rest of my life. Um, that was really helpful.
Right.
And, it opened up more questions like, what would you do in that situation where the culture is not um, the same for music in schools as it would be in the States?
Right. Well, and I think too, like with music and probably other arts too, they all kind of want to know too, like how you're gonna help the program and
Yeah,
like build it and make it interesting and keep kids in it. So having some sorts of examples of that,
yeah.
I think,
And
is helpful too.
definitely. And weirdly enough, like the more people that I talk to that are employers, I I thought in the beginning it would be a good idea to kind of play down the band thing because I know that a lot of schools don't have band and that's pretty much more of a Western thing or like some of Southeast Asia, but it's not a big
Hmm.
thing. So basically, I've just always said I teach music and like my focus is instrumental. But actually, the more that I talk about band, every employer that I've talked to is like, oh my gosh, we either want a band and we really want someone like you to start it, or we have a band that we started recently and it's like the thing that kids go crazy for. So I don't think that it's bad to like brand yourself as a band kid, even though that's not the mainstream thing now.
Right. Well, I mean, where I'm going now too, like they're excited that I have experience in like band and choir and I mean a little bit orchestra. So
Yeah,
like I mean, yeah, definitely like own your skills and whatever facet of music it is. Even if you are gonna teach general music, it's still cool to be like, I'm a band kid and it'd be cool to start that or do that.
definitely. Because even if you get your job description, I mean, it's probably never going to be super clear cut, but even if you did get that, things are going to change so quickly, like even before you get into the country, that it's good to just have all of those different skills.
Yeah, and things are fluxing. Literally, my 3 years in Kazakhstan, my course load slightly changed every single year.
Yeah,
But it was all in like the betterment and building of the program. So, you
yeah.
just have to know too. Being flexible is important.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
didn't get into anything super crazy out of the realm of stuff that you had experience in, whereas I
Right.
did. And maybe that's another podcast where we can talk about like the other things that you might get roped into when you're an
Yeah.
international
I mean,
teacher.
like, be flexible, but also,
Yeah.
I mean, you need to know, like, where you're going to draw the
Yeah.
line in it, too.
Yeah.
Because
And
there have been, like, some things I've been asked to do that I will say, like, no,
yeah.
as well. But more times than not, I'm very flexible in
Yeah,
what I
and
teach. And,
definitely for me, I was just like, well, I mean, they didn't give me a choice in the beginning because I didn't have enough hours of class time to be
right.
considered full time, and I was hired full time, so they're like, you're gonna do this. But as time went on, I learned to appreciate it anyway because it was just a time in the day where I got to do something different, and that was kind of fun anyway.
Right. Well, or for me, I mean, I did the musical last school year, and
Hmm.
then got asked to do drama, or I kind of advocated to do it because no one else had stepped up, and it wouldn't have happened. And not that drama
Yeah,
is my number one like strength, but it was fun to do something like different and to interact with kids I otherwise wouldn't have. And I don't know, it makes me a better teacher, and it makes me a better music teacher too to do some of these other things and see what works in different settings.
so maybe we want to get into
Sure,
like the
yeah,
job fair
let's do
stuff.
it.
So I think you were the one who found it
Yeah,
or like
so
found
I
out
mean,
about
when
it, right?
people, I mean, just a brief thing, we can go more into this later too. I feel like all of these things could be more in depth.
Yeah,
But everybody always asks like
sure.
how, whatever, to do this, how should you, whatever. So I had at least my cousin, so I was like asking him, if I want to teach overseas, what should I do? And he said, like, hands down, go to Northern Iowa, um, the job fair there. What was the name of the job fair even? Northern Northern Iowa
It's
International.
the yeah, it's the
Yeah. Oh
University of
yeah, the
Northern Iowa.
UNI like International Job Fair. He's like, that's the biggest one in the U.S.
Yep, that's it.
Like, go to that, especially if you're a new teacher. You'll have more options if you're like there in
Hmm.
person. So I had decided to go that, and I knew Laura was also, obviously, since you had just got back from Costa Rica, I think, right? Or,
Actually, I wasn't. I
okay,
hadn't even gone there yet because that was
okay,
in
so it was just
February and I
before
left in
you were
March.
going. So I obviously knew that you were also interested in it. So roped you into
Yeah.
this too. And like I said, it was, I had gotten hired for like a half-time, half-year like overflow music position. So I had worked literally like 4 days. And then, and then coincidentally, all my kids were on a field trip like that Friday. So we like went on Friday. Um, yeah, and we went to
Nice.
good old Iowa. A beautiful drive from southern Minnesota to northern Iowa with many beautiful
Yep.
scenes. Um, yeah,
Uh-huh. Yep.
yeah.
Mostly not though.
So, two, I guess, I mean, feel free to take it away at any point too or interrupt me. But we
Sure.
have been looking because online they have a database and can tell you kind of what schools are coming and what jobs there might be open, which of course can always change because in the international world, like there's new jobs taken like all the time. It's always changing. So,
Yeah, and you get access to the database as soon as you register, like
right,
starting in like December or something. So we actually had like, I don't know. I think I had like close to, well, I don't know, at least like 4 weeks of access
right.
to seeing what kind of jobs are open. And that's how I don't think you did, but I actually had an interview before we
Yeah,
even
well,
went to
I
the
had, I think
conference.
the same school
Um,
reach out wanting to interview, but it was all times
okay.
when it was like teaching or whatnot. Um,
Oh, right, right, right. So we were both interested, or
yeah,
they were
so some
interested in both of
schools,
us for this job,
yeah.
but I
Wow,
literally,
I didn't make it work.
yeah.
No, I
I'm
know now.
sorry. I
You
meant
had the
like I
time and you
had
were
the
able to
time.
interview with them. But some schools will like reach out to you
Yeah.
before and either do like preliminary interviews or they might even just say, hey,
Yep.
come see us. We want to set up an interview when you get here or whatever. Um,
Some people even get hired before the conference and
right,
then they just end
right.
up
Some
not going to
schools
the
will even
conference.
go that far. But we had been looking at the database and kind of
Yeah.
each of like I don't know, starred or like highlighted, the things we wanted, but there were really only, I don't even know, like less than 20, like 15 music jobs, maybe.
For music overall, I think there was maybe one or two
Well,
for
right.
band and they were in China. And then general music there was like
But I
five.
think before we went, I think there was like 15 or something listed. It was kind of a lot.
Oh, right, right,
But,
right. Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
a weekend of highs and lows, for sure. So we had this plan where like, there's not that many, but like,
Yeah.
we can go hit them all up. But I just remember during like the opening meeting that we got like a pamphlet of
Oh.
now all the schools that were there, and it was like half that. It was yeah, like maybe like 8 schools or 8 jobs.
And there was a lot of stuff literally like crossed out in permanent marker and obviously copied like 2 minutes beforehand. And then some just written in
Right.
pencil. Like
It
that's how much
like
it
yeah,
changes.
like I was saying, it fluxes constantly, and especially when they're having the job fairs like this that are like in person. Things happen so extremely fast. So you have to like go
Yeah.
in to this fair. I mean, of course, getting a job is not ever guaranteed, as we will get to, but
Right.
like you have to know, like, okay, I'm gonna have to make a giant, huge, massive life decision and only have a few hours to make it if I get offered it.
Yeah, when you go to the fair, they tell you like most offers will only be good for basically up to 24 hours. And especially during the weekend, it'll probably
Yeah,
just be
I
like
I think
overnight,
it
like
was
you have the
less. I
night to
think
sleep
they
on
only
it and
gave
decide.
like 6 or 12, like 12 hours or something. It was because there's three
Yeah,
days, so they want to contact someone else if you
yeah,
don't accept. So
right.
anyway, we had our initial like sadness of less jobs, and then I think there was some downtime where we probably went to Target or something.
Well, I think we also, because just thinking about the mindset that at least I was in, like before the conference, during the conference, and even after to where I am now, because when I was looking online and in the pamphlet about which jobs were available, I had this notion that I could like choose which ones were interesting to me, and there was maybe going to be a point at which I had a choice, or like I could choose like, oh, I really want to go to South Korea, so I'm just going to focus on that. Well, when you're a specialist, there might not even be a job for South Korea, and you might not get offered it or even get an interview. Like, you just can't
Well,
put any
and
kind
and
of
as
preference like
it was
that,
completely
really.
your first year, and I had, like I said, would have had half year experience. So
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
hadn't
I
taught
was
at all
definitely, I think, more
for money.
realistic about it than you were. Love you so
Yeah,
much, but you were like, there's
yeah,
really only like 2 jobs I want or
it's
whatever
okay.
it was, and
And I didn't want to interview for choir jobs or orchestra because I
right.
knew I wasn't going to
Well, I
like that.
totally
So there
understand,
wasn't
but
a lot
I
left.
like had the license for everything, and I was in the mindset of like, even if
Yeah,
it's not my like number one choice, I'm still gonna go do it because it's good experience, and maybe hearing more about the job, I will like
yeah,
it or whatever. But I think that first
yeah.
day was just like a social day. I'm pretty sure. I think they just had.
I think it was supposed to be, but there were people going hard and like trying to talk to people and get information. And I think a lot of them were
Yeah.
networking and getting to know other teachers. And I kind of wish
We
we
did
had done
talk to
that,
a
but we
couple
didn't.
at, like, I don't even remember, some restaurant across the street a little bit.
That's
And
true.
they gave us some good advice too
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
ask about the school's infrastructure because I worked at a school where they didn't have printers and we're like what?
right. Yeah, there's a little bit of a danger because in the opening meeting they said be open to anything, be ready to like go to some country you've never heard of versus thinking like, okay, you don't want to accept literally anything. Like you need to have some level of standard. Like I want to be at a place where I'm not going to have to make my
Right.
own
Well,
musical instruments.
this is just with like all job interviews I've had now, but one of our college professors like said something when he was interviewing for a job at our school that like has stuck with me through everything. That's
Hmm.
just like remember that you're also interviewing them. Like you have to make
Yeah.
sure it's the right fit for you too. Just because they want you doesn't mean that it's right. And like you can
Yeah,
definitely ask them those
definitely.
questions too. Like go into interviews having questions for them. And it shows them like
Yep.
you're serious about it too if you're asking them specific questions about like their mission or you're asking about the music program or you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you made a good point when I was nervous about emailing
Mhm.
for the position that I have now, because it was like literally just cold emailing the headquarters and saying, I know you have this job and I want it. And they're like, you couldn't even see it online or anything. So I was just like, I feel like this is wrong. But you said they want to
Yeah.
fill the position too. So no one is at an upper hand, really. It's just like basically, do you want to be friends with me or not? Like it goes back to even that kind of
Right. Well,
mindset.
and Oh, with that job specific too, it was like they're in our company and it's a lot easier for them to transfer somebody than to go to a job fair.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
super time sensitive.
So,
Yeah.
okay, back to the job fair. I kind of feel like we like danced around stuff. I
Yes.
think that first day was like the intro
Right.
thing, and then you could go in and sign
Yep.
up. I think it was like, I can't honestly remember which day.
You could try to schedule
Yeah.
interviews, I think. And they were telling us to look in our mailboxes because we had these like
I know.
stupid file folders
One of
with
my
our names
coworkers
on
went on a
them.
whole rant about that. He's like, we're in like 2020 and we cannot just have them email
You
us.
can,
Yeah.
people are emailing.
But
No, they were anyway. No
they
one was
did
even
have
using
file
it.
boxes, and I think some people would like put
Yeah.
letters in it. And the schools also have files, so you can email them, of course, and
Yeah.
talk to them, but you
It
can
may
also
have
like put
been,
your resume in the school's box for them.
yeah, that's true. It may have been easier for the employers instead of like getting on their phone or their computer during all of that to just drop some paper or get like some helper person instead of actually getting, an email out. So it kind of makes sense
Right.
from their
So I think
standpoint.
like the afternoon on Friday and like maybe the morning on Saturday we're like signing up for interviews. Maybe some even started on Saturday. Um,
Yeah. But then there was also, I mean, I think the main way that I did it was just
yeah.
waiting at the
Oh,
stand to
same.
ask them
So
questions.
going back to like being the first year teacher thing, we did wait in line for to ask about the
Yeah.
China things. But again, you need to be kind of open
Oh,
because
right.
China, at least when we went, and probably still now, you needed at least 2 years
I think it's
experience.
still true.
And then other
They were
schools
very firm on that.
will need 3 years experience, and some schools that are super like high tier international schools might even require like 5 years experience. So I'm again not saying like
Yeah.
take anything and everything, but you need to be maybe a little more open
Yeah.
and flexible, especially if it's your first teaching experience or relatively new. Just be open to other things.
Yeah, now that I've looked online for more since like having been in that position, some schools even require you to
Right.
have prior
Yeah.
international teaching experience. But I don't think those schools would be at that job fair because they know if you're in Iowa, you probably don't have a ton of experience
Yeah,
internationally.
but I mean, there were still definitely schools there that had those requirements 2, 3, 5 years. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, so
definitely.
we signed up for some interviews. We both signed up for Ecuador, right?
I
Yeah,
remember Mexico.
but I
I
thought
remember that
Ecuador was
guy
the
pretty
one that
well.
they'd contacted us before.
No, that
That's
was
what
Venezuela.
I Wow. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
no, but
yeah.
thank God that we didn't
Yeah.
get that offer because,
So we both
yeah, it's not a
interviewed
great
for
place right
Venezuela
now.
and Mexico City, right? And then I
Yep.
had interviewed for another school. Wow, I can't even remember where. I think it was in Singapore, I think. I think it was in
It was such a
Singapore, but it was
blur.
a very religious school. And it was a small
Oh, yeah.
school. So I had ended up canceling my interview for that after like researching the school more. Not that there's anything like wrong with like religious schools. I just think where I'm
Yeah.
at, it was
I
not a
remember
good
you
fit
saying,
for me. Um,
yeah, yeah. I remember you saying you didn't want to feel like you were expected to teach kids about religion when you maybe didn't have all of that knowledge
yeah,
that,
well, and
that they wanted you to have.
especially going into it knowing that it was a choir position. Especially being like a choir
Right.
teacher, I didn't want to have to only do like religious music. I wanted more freedom and like song choice as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a big part of it. I think if I did like
Yep.
another subject, it would be different, but it would definitely impact every single thing I do to be a choir teacher at a very religious school like that. Um, anyway,
Yep.
and then I signed up for an interview in Kazakhstan. Wow. Yeah, so the interviews, by the way, they're all in like these hotel rooms. So you're you just go in the hallway, you're sitting in a chair in the hallway, waiting to go in the hotel room and be
Uh-huh.
interviewed. So kind of strange.
Oh, we should talk about the hall too, because prior to that, that's how you would get
Oh,
the
I guess
interview,
we just kind of glossed
probably.
over it, but kind of like a convention center, how
Yeah.
they have booths set up, or like I mean, it's a job fair. There's booths set up. So you
Yeah. It's just a million countries right next to each other that you can just go walk up
right.
to their foldable table and
Yeah,
say, "Hi,
so
hire
you
me."
just go around and then you can talk to like some of the recruiters or they're usually the interviewers too, and then you sign up for an interview and you ask them questions, of course, about the school and whatnot. So that's how we sign up for these interviews. Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
then when it's interview time, you go find the hotel room.
Which is obvious, like they didn't do a lot of, and I wouldn't expect them to, setting up the room in a different way. Like
Right.
you can't really move the furniture. So it's pretty much like a foldable table right in the entryway. Like you would probably walk past the bathrooms and then there's a table and a chair. And that was super weird for literally my first interview,
Yeah.
like for my career ever. I think it was the Mexico City one. And I was like, this is weird. And just the way the interviewer came off, I was like scared. I'm like, why did I come
Yeah.
here?
Well,
No
I
one wants
know the
me.
one that I ended up doing for Kazakhstan. I think it was just like the like cushioned chairs. We were just like sitting in like cushioned chairs. But anyway,
Yeah,
so we had
basically.
most of our interviews, I think, like on Saturday. And right, we had most of
Yep,
our
that was the bulk.
yeah,
Yep,
we did
you
most
could
of our
do some
interviews
on
on
Sunday.
Saturday. We'll have to circle back to the chicken chalupa thing, and then I had like my
Oh my
interview for
gosh.
Kazakhstan like on Sunday morning. And I mean, Laura was there, but I was pretty close to
Yeah,
canceling it because I was like, we were so beaten up because I think by this point on like Saturday night, we had gotten maybe some emails saying we were like rejected from these other schools. They had offered it to other
yeah,
people, which sometimes they'll email you, sometimes they won't tell you, but it's nice to be in the loop. And
yeah.
yeah, so I had almost canceled my interview because I was just so down, and then too, I was like, Kazakhstan. Like, I don't even know if I would want to go if I get offered this job. So I like toyed with it, but then I went back
Yeah.
to the like, just be open minded, and even if you don't take the job, it's good experience and all of that. We ended we
Yeah.
ended up.
And
Oh
there was
no,
this
go ahead.
illusion. Sorry. There was this illusion that I don't know if it was true for other people or if it was just the illusion. But from that first meeting and then the first meeting with all the teachers in the room and then watching everyone in the conference hall, I just got the vibe that everyone else had their day booked full of interviews and they had
Yeah.
so many opportunities. And when we only had maximum 20
Well, yeah,
possible
not even.
music interviews, and then some of them were China and we couldn't
Yeah.
work there and all of that. So then I'm like, what the heck? There's no way that I'm going
Right.
to be able to get
So
anything
no, I mean,
statistically.
obviously, I ended up going to the interview, and like the guy I interviewed with was just like so awesome and like reassuring, and I appreciated too. He was like honest with me. He was like, "I think you'd be a really great fit
Yeah.
for the position, but there are some other people that have more experience, and like, well, if I
Mm-hmm.
don't offer them the job first, like like corporate will be like mad." So,
Right.
why did we even stay all day Sunday? We had nothing going on other than just hanging out in Iowa.
I think because we were talking about if you should do the interview, and I'm like, well, this is literally what we
Yeah,
came
I think
for.
we
You might as
booked the
well just do
night.
it. And I think I thought your
No, it
interview
was
was
like
later
no, it was
on,
like in the
like
morning,
in
I
the.
think. And
Okay.
yeah. And then we just bummed around northern Iowa and did, all of the tourist things like Target and Taco Bell.
Like there was
Yeah, and
nothing.
then
Yes.
I was getting emails from him like throughout the day, I think, and he was like, "Hey, just to let you know, we offered it to somebody, but like things could change. I'll update you." A couple hours later, he's like, "Hey, I offered it to
Yeah.
another person." So I was like, "Wow,
Yeah.
wow, okay." And then,
What was,
sorry,
can
what?
you talk? Sorry. Can you talk about what if there was anything else in that interview that like made you interested in it? Like did you think that you wanted to take it if you were
Well,
offered it in that time?
you're like I said, the guy like specifically like just made me so excited about the country, and he was really like answering all my questions and addressing any concerns I had about moving to Kazakhstan, and about like the philosophy of the school, which is really interesting to me. So like that for sure. And then as we went through
Yeah. Okay.
whatever, all these emails throughout the day and me being rejected like twice. And then finally, I think you were asleep. I think it was like at 10 o'clock at night or something. He offered me the job finally
Yeah.
because the other people had, I guess, probably taken other jobs. Well, third choice, best choice.
Yeah.
And I stayed up like most of the night, like researching Kazakhstan and Almaty, and I mean, the more I looked at it, the more I was like, this is safe. Like, there's mountains, there's lots to do.
Yeah.
And I like called my mom in the hallway of our like Motel 8, and yeah, I came to the decision.
Love
So
it.
he had said would call me in the morning. So I think we were like driving back on Monday, and I called him on the phone again, and
Yep.
yeah, and he answered a couple more questions I had, and then I just confirmed to him, like, yeah, I'll take the job. He's like, I knew you would. You seem like you're, like, just ready for, like, an adventure, and yeah.
Mhm.
Like I said, I think just, like, the people are what have, like, made interviews so much better, and you didn't have to do interviews again this round because you stayed with our same company, but even me interviewing for this next series of jobs, like the people make or break things. Like I've interviewed for places that I really want to go, but like some of the people are just not as like charismatic. So really,
Yeah.
like I think the people are, I don't want to say just as or more important, but the people are extremely important to whether or not you want a job too, I think. Especially,
Especially
right,
if it's your
right.
administrator or prospective
A
administrator that
hundred
you're going
percent.
to
Yeah,
be
that's what I was
reporting
just
to.
gonna say. Especially if it's somebody who's gonna be like your boss. Like you want to make sure like you can see yourself working with them too. And the job that I took now, I'm not interviewed really, but like talked to like three different people, like two sort of admins, and then like one of my colleagues, and like they are what made me even more excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to. We'll probably have to do a separate podcast about interviews. I think that would
Mhm.
be helpful to other people. Even, the distinction between international interviews and stateside interviews and all of that. But what I've found, and I haven't done that many interviews, Skype, video, in person, a lot of it has been emails. But I did a couple interviews for
Mhm.
stateside jobs and a couple interviews for international jobs now. And I have found, blanket statement, that the international interviewers, whether it's admin or not, they just seem more like honest and personable, which is really reassuring because when you're like calling to some country that you maybe have never heard of or never been to, and you don't even know if you want the job, you need someone to just be like, hey, so like, what do you think about the job? Instead of hiding in all of this professional language and like wearing a fancy suit and
Right.
all this stuff. Just like, hey, this is the job. Tell me your concerns, and then we'll decide if you
Right.
should get
It
it or
feels
not.
like more of a collective thing. Like, is this right for everybody?
Yeah. We're making this decision together. It's not
Right. Well,
me
I
hiring
definitely
you,
had like one
basically.
or two, like I said, international job interviews that felt more like the they're just trying to check their boxes and they're like staring at their paper the whole time and just like going down like, do I meet these criteria? And more than like getting to
Yeah.
know me as a person and me as an educator.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's really important, especially for the international interviewers and especially when they're your admin, to know that they're like supportive and like looking out for you even before you get there because they're gonna be your first and maybe sometimes even your only point of contact for this country until you get there. So it's extremely
Yep.
important, I think, for you to like feel comfortable with them.
And you should be judging that too. Like we said before,
Right.
it's a partnership and deciding if both of you are right for this. Because if they're not quick to answer your questions, or if they kind of skirt around something and you can already tell that they're being political about something or maybe trying to hide something, you
Yeah,
definitely don't want to work there.
like I said, I appreciated the Kazakhstan interviewer because, like, he would, like, address my concerns, but, like, in a, like, honest way. I'm like, do I need to be worried about, like, my safety or worried about this? And I'll be like, no, like, in the past, maybe it was harsher, but, like, now he's like, I live there and my daughters live there and I'm comfortable with them, like, going to the mall and, like, just for them to be able
Mhm.
to address your concerns or even be honest, like the job I'm going to now, they're like, we have the funds and we're trying to build the program. It's not that big right now. Like just being honest.
Mhm.
I so much appreciate that than the hidden surprises.
Definitely. So, spoiler
Oh
alert,
yeah.
I did not get a job or an
Mm-mm.
offer at the job fair. It was pretty much like, yeah, definitely. I had a lot of interesting experiences and learned a lot from the interviews. The biggest, most cringe thing for me from that interview process there was later I realized what a hot mess my resume was. Not even the fact that I didn't have any experience, it doesn't matter. But that it was pretty much, I presented like what would be a CV.
Oh
So, like all of my information, and it was like multiple pages stapled together, and people looked at me like, I'm sure they just threw that away because you don't want that, especially at a conference where they're looking at
yeah.
hundreds of people every day. So now I know I've gone through several iterations of resume
Yeah,
and I
I would
know what
definitely
is
say
better.
like, I
But
mean,
yeah,
if you could get it down to like one side, one page, that would be awesome. But even like front back, one
you
page is
gotta.
better than you don't want like that third page and adding a staple. They will throw it away. I
Yeah,
think I had heard like one
yeah,
interviewer say like if it's more than like one piece of paper, they don't keep it.
yeah,
So yeah.
yep. Well, when you're still a student or a new teacher, you have like a lot of experiences that
Hmm.
aren't directly relevant. So it's really hard to decide what they will care about. Like, I did some volunteer stuff, I had a lot of part time jobs, and I don't know if they care that I waitressed as a pizza server
Right.
for 2 years, or if it's better to just cut that out entirely. I don't know. So now it's easier
Yeah.
to decide. But back then I was like, I feel like it's safer to just put everything. And if they're looking for that thing, they will
Yeah,
find it.
I mean, I think, yeah, obviously you need to probably add some part-time jobs and stuff, but I think trying to make sure that your relevant things are there, and whether that's like leadership things, your student teaching, your, the clubs you were in, I think that stuff is good to add, like clubs and things that are relevant to the job.
Yeah. And definitely any language skills, which that could be a whole other podcast of like, you kind of want to say if you have language experience, but not
Right.
play it up too much. And it's, I feel like it's weird when you start speaking a second or third or whatever language to describe the level that you're at unless you're like clinically fluent, because like I have like conversational Spanish. I don't feel comfortable teaching a class
Right.
in all Spanish. So how do you really articulate that? Like I would survive teaching in a Spanish speaking country if the school
Right.
was in
I think
English.
they really only want to know or really only care if you are mostly fluent. Because if I just have,
Yeah.
yeah, if I
It
just
might
have
make you feel better
conversational
if
Spanish
you
or
have some.
Russian or whatever, it doesn't help me as a teacher for the school if it's an English school, if I can't teach in it.
Yeah. And actually that reminds me that a lot of schools wanted to know your language experience because they didn't want you to use that language if it was an English only school.
Right.
Like they didn't, like the Russian speaking teachers at my school, they are really hard on them
Mm-hmm.
to not speak Russian, even if it's to a coworker in the hallway or whatever. Like it's English
Right.
from
Right,
8
right,
to
right.
4.
Yeah, for sure. Unless they're teaching another language class, like if they're teaching Russian
Yeah.
or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I think a lot of international schools are like that, unless they're like a bilingual school.
Yeah. But
Right.
you'll know before you get into that. You won't be accidentally hired to speak two languages
Right. Well,
if you
and I
don't want
know
to.
my school did a little bit where they had classes where they would help you like learn Russian just for your own personal if you want. And when I get to my
Yeah.
next post, they also are going to give us classes. So, and you can sign up by lake level too. So, like well, I guess it's not really a spoiler, but I'm going to Panama. So, yeah, I have some Spanish experience from high school, so I don't have to start at like square one. So that will be good.
Yeah. Oh, we have to end with chicken
Okay,
chalupa.
yeah,
Otherwise,
sorry,
it doesn't fit in any other episode.
yes, I can't leave the people waiting.
How dare you?
So this is
You
kind of a
just
dumb
dangled
story,
that.
but it was like it. I just feel like it
Completely
relates so
relevant.
much to our emotions during the trip, in a weird way. So
Yes.
Taco Bell, this like February that we were going to this job fair had advertised like a chicken chalupa taco. So it was like the taco shell was breaded chicken. Um,
There was
right.
no shell,
So of
traditional
course we were
corn or
like, we
flour
need
shell.
this in our life.
That's going to make us feel better and assuage all of our
Well, but
feelings for being rejected
before we had even been
internationally.
rejected, I think like we got into Iowa and we had some downtime and we're like, we're gonna go to Taco
Yeah.
Bell. We're gonna get these tacos. It's gonna be awesome. And then we did.
Yeah.
And
Because
yeah,
it was right
we did.
across from our hotel, I
And
think.
they were out and they're like, we'll have them tomorrow. And I said, okay, great. I look forward to it. And then the next day, I think it was probably after we had all our interviews, we went again
Yeah, I
and we're
think so.
like, we heard you have the tacos today. We want them. And they said, we sold out this morning or something. They had like only had a certain amount for the day. So again, we were devastated. We went to bed. I can't say with our stomachs empty because we ate many Cheez-Its and snacks that we acquired.
So I remember that we were at the Target and I couldn't decide which kind of Cheez-Its I wanted. So you told me to
Obviously.
get both boxes, and
Yeah,
I
so
sure did.
I'm sure we ate real food. But I just remember
Yeah.
eating a lot
Something.
of Cheez-Its. And yeah, went to bed
Yeah.
Sunday night, jobless and chalupa-less. And then I think because I got my wow. I don't know what the word. Why can't I blink? Why am I blinking?
I don't know.
Whatever. I got the job offer. There we go. There's what it is. I got the job offer in the middle of the night, and then as we're driving back, before I called my interviewer, we went through the drive-through, and hallelujah, they had chicken chalupas. So it was kind of like a,
Yeah.
no chalupa, no job, no chalupa, no job. Finally, here's your chalupa,
Yep.
and you get a job. So it was kind of like a highlight
Win-win.
of the trip.
And for me, it was really my only reason for going there.
You definitely got experience
No,
and learned a lot.
but it ended up, I did. But I ended up feeling pretty bad, and then I was just like, well, at least we did end up getting the tacos, so that's great.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's short and sweet chalupa story. All right.
Yes, crucial to the emotional
Also, before we
legacy.
close this out, not that anybody will listen to this, but if you are listening,
We'll have to make some people
and you
listen
made
to
it all this way to the end, if you have like specific questions or topics that you want to know about, like us and our job, us and living overseas or travel, or whatever else, if there's things you want to know specifically, feel free to let us know. We have lots of ideas, but I'm sure at some point we'll run out, and I don't want to talk about only things we pick. I want it to be informative for other people too.
Yeah. I get a lot of people asking me, they just think I have this like part of my brain that's like interesting international stories, and I don't have it organized like that yet. So if you have like specific questions, like what happens when you like try to haggle at a market, or like any like negative experiences getting scammed or something like that.
Like positive, wonderful, beautiful experiences too.
Sure, I guess we could be positive too.
Yeah. So I don't know how to end this in like a cool, collected way.
Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your feedback.
Honest but kind feedback.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, thanks if you made it all the way to this end. And yeah.
See you next time.